been turned on their head, which I think a lot of people feel like 2020 has done to them.
Yeah. A lot of it. Yeah.
Probably all of humanity, the whole world over. But I had this one day that literally turned my whole life on its head. And there was no direction, and there were no goals, and there were no plans, and I'm just literally surviving day to day. And I kept telling myself, I was like, I'm crazy now. I'm a crazy person now, because I don't know what's going on, and I don't know how to feel, and I don't know what I think. And I'm thinking so many things sometimes that I don't know. I can't even keep track of them anymore.
Yeah.
And so I said, I think the very, very first thing is I would love to be able to validate other people that are survivors, other people that are caregivers, that what they are thinking and what they are feeling is not weird. It's not extreme. It's not crazy.
Yeah.
You've just been dumped in a really extreme situation and you're trying to find your way around it now.
Yeah.
So that was the very, very first thing that we thought of. And then I said, Laura said, she goes, I don't think that's enough. And I said, okay, well, great. Now what?
Yeah.
And it just has grown organically, that we want to be a resource that, number one, we can provide a little bit of hope.
Right.
And we're not providing treatment. Judy's a doctor, but Laura and I are not. We are not therapists. We are not doctors. But sometimes when you talk about the psychological and the emotional and all of the things that you feel like you've lost and you grieve for, you need time and space to heal.
Sure.
Well, sometimes part of that process is knowing that someone else has been through it.
Yeah.
Right.
And seeing the ways that they've gotten through it, where they are on their journey. It's like, well, I'm 50 yards behind you.
Yeah.
One day, maybe I can be to where you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be a therapist to share your story and to say, hey, this is what we've gone through, and you're going through the same thing, and this is what we've done. Like, you don't have to be a therapist to do that. That's great.
Well, and that's like this podcast, sharing all these stories and getting them out there.
Yeah, for
it's
sure.
so important, because I had no idea brain injury was a thing. Like, that sounds so naive. And I know that, and it sounds just so ignorant.
And there's a brain injury community on Instagram. And like, I feel super happy that they're there, because I wouldn't have never met you.
Right.
That's right.
And I met you.
That's how I feel about you.
Yeah. I met you from Jessie Munch, and it just so happened that you were a local nonprofit, and it was perfect.
Which is great.
Yeah.
Because Jessie's in Oregon.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
So it was just, again, fate.
That word, it keeps coming up, doesn't it?
We can call it that. But you can also, when there is a need, I feel like the door's open and it's provided.
Well,
but you have to be willing to go and get it. Like, you have to be willing to take the action.
You have to walk through the doorway.
You do have to walk through the doorway.
And that helps in who you are surrounding yourself with.
Exactly.
And I feel like this podcast has opened a lot of doors for us to speak to like-minded people.
And network with people on this level. Yeah.
Well, and
it's great.
Like I said, I had no idea even that brain injury was a thing when all this happened. And so how are you networked? Well, what if there was a network that was already provided? So this is a horrible, horrible thing to admit. I remember we got home from the hospital and I was like, that's it. I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
I had no idea who to call. I had no idea what therapist.
This is over.
And they don't even give you a list of like, here's therapists in the area. Here's like, there's nothing like that when you guys,
So I actually told Shane a little bit earlier, apparently, because all you know is your own experience.
Right.
I thought that the way it happened for us was the way it happened for everybody. And more by chance, I found, than anything else, when we got discharged from the hospital, for whatever reason, someone had set up an appointment for us at the rehab clinic at Primary Children's. Had that not happened, I never would have gone to that rehab clinic. I would never have even known it existed.
Right.
And so that's what started our rehab process, really, truly. And then because of the legal action that was involved because of Alex's injury, we had an attorney, a really great attorney that I can't say good enough things about. And he is still a good friend to our family to this day. But when I would have problems, I'm like, Alex is, I don't know what to make of this. And he's like, well, we have to figure it out.
Yeah.
We need to be able to understand and explain what's going on, because you have to do that in a lawsuit.
Yeah, you do.
You can't have unanswered questions. Juries and judges want answers.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, parents do too, but usually parents on their own don't get them.
Yeah, that's true.
So, we ended up at the rehab clinic, like I said, mostly because of chance. And then we had this great attorney that was kind of driving the bus for us. And we ended up with really great rehab care. And, we're going to go back to fate. We had a couple of different therapists that literally, I feel like, fell out of the sky, right in front of me. And, and so there's one thing one of the doctors said, you know what, you need to go see an audiologist. Well, I said, well, his hearing seems fine. And he goes, oh no, he can hear. I'm like, well, then why am I going to an audiologist? And he said, just go get his hearing checked. And I was like, all right. So I did. And we went to this audiologist and had his hearing at the soundproof booth and everything. And she said, well, his hearing's fine. And kind of like rolled her eyes at me. Like, I can't believe you brought it. And I was like, I know his hearing is fine.
Yeah.
I know how ridiculous. And she's like, well, then why did you come in? And I told her what this other doctor had said. And she goes, why are you seeing a neuropsychologist? This kid is 5. I was like, well, okay. And I explained the history, and she goes, okay, you don't need to see me. You need to see somebody else. Yeah. And I said, I don't know anybody else that does this. Yeah. I just, I pulled up the IHC directory and it had your name, and I made an appointment. And she goes, no, I know who you need to go see. And she gave me a name and a phone number. And she said, well, as soon as you get home, you need to call her. And it was a speech and language pathologist and an audiologist, and she's brilliant. Her name is Nancy Murray. And we went and did some incredibly extensive testing for Alex. It was an all-day event.
Wow.
And found out that he has auditory processing disorder because of his brain injury.
So he can hear just fine.
Yeah. But,
yes.
Yeah.
But sometimes he doesn't process what he's hearing.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
So it's actually really interesting. His hearing is like superhuman.
It's like selective hearing almost.
Well, so one of the best examples I got is, you know how when there's like a fan or the lights buzz in a room and it's annoying, but you can tune it out?
The white noise, yeah.
Right. One of the things that he struggles with is he can't tune that out. He hears everything at the same level.
Yes,
so then
I have a constant ring in my ears, like all the time.
Enough to make you crazy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So he hears all of the external things and can't tune them out. So if you're sitting in school as a 6-year-old and you're hearing people shuffling their feet, and you hear the lights buzzing,
somebody
and the
chomping
papers
on gum,
exactly.
Moving.
Can you hear the teacher?
Yeah.
Can you pay attention to the teacher?
There's no way you could.
No. Well, I had no idea what auditory processing disorder was. I'd never even heard of that. Well, the audiologist we went to first, she didn't know how to diagnose it, but here's the really interesting. She'd been to some sort of continuing education seminar, didn't even know her professionally, had met her just a couple of weeks before that we ended up going to.
Yeah.
So when you talk about fate.
If anything's fate, that might be.
Yeah.
I'm still not 100%.
Yeah, no, not. But... I agree. I can't convince myself yet, but in that instance,
you were in the right place at the right time. So were they, and it worked out.
Yep.
Interesting.
So when you talk about the importance of that network at Brainstorm, one of the things that we really, really try to help people understand and are trying to help survivors and caregivers develop is their brain injury rehab team. Okay. What their support team looks like. Sure. Now, here's the really funny. My kids are really into race car driving. They follow, I don't even know the names of all the races. Sorry, all y'all that love racing out there. I'm really ignorant. But anyway, a driver in a car don't win a race with just a driver in a car.
Right.
You have engineers that develop that car. You have
mechanics.
Exactly.
Yeah. You have a team that switches out tires and cools things down. And yeah.
And here's the deal. Like, I had no idea how many people that was. It's hundreds of people.
Really, the driver is one of the least significant people in that whole equation.
Well, and here's this. The driver has their own support. They have trainers to make sure that they can physically withstand the demands of the race. They have, it's amazing. I had no idea. Brain injury is the same thing because it is the marathon race of your life. It's going to go forever.
Yeah.
Well, here's the deal. You might have the fastest car on the planet that it can run forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. But if you don't have someone that can change a flat tire, your car isn't going anywhere.
And that's
fast.
one thing I've noticed.
One thing.
That's one thing that I've noticed. Like, if, every now and then I need a tire replacement or whatever. Like, every now and then I need a brake, and if I don't do that, I suffer.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and here's the thing. You think, oh, that's how much of a percentage of a car is a tire?
Yeah.
It's really small.
Sure.
Right? Well, how much is that going to impede your progress? How much harder is it to just get down the road with one flat tire, let alone 2 or 3 or 4?
Yep.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, at Brainstorm, we're trying to help people understand you have to have a team.
Yeah.
And we're happy to be part of that team, but we're not the only part.
Yeah.
You have to have the right social support, family support. If you are blessed to have family that is supportive, friends, people in the community. Maybe it's an ecclesiastical leader. Maybe it's someone in education, a teacher that is invested enough in you to kind of follow your progress. It also involves doctors and therapists. It might involve, one of the things that we have for our kiddo is we have a trust. Well, I'm not an attorney. I don't know how to write that up. I don't know the process to get that approved. Well, you know what? We have a couple of really great attorneys that we know that are on our team that were able to help us with that.
That's great. Yeah, that's great. So it's a one-stop shop, right?
Brainstorm.
It's a one-stop, or it's the pit stop.
It's the pit stop to try and explain how that is. And then when you're like, okay, here's one of the problems I'm having. I don't know where to go.
It's like more of a class to teach people about how to operate in the pit stop.
Well, and then, like I said, we're not treatment providers.
Right.
We don't have all the answers.
You're resources.
But we are the resource that hopefully can help you find that next person that needs to be part of your team.
Yeah.
Do you need someone that's going to help you understand insurance? Okay, let's contact your insurance. Let's figure out what you're going to need.
Yeah.
So yeah, we don't have all the answers. We don't have, but we do know that you can't do it on your own.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. I think you, however it came together, whether it was fate or out of necessity or both, I think it is amazing that you decided to keep going, to actually act upon that instead of just being like, well, let's start this thing up and then I just want to just take care of him and that's fine. And instead of being like, well, I'm going to be a part of this and I'm going to actually help other moms, other people.
Yeah.
Right?
You know, I was talking to Judy about it the other day and I said, you know what, this may never be hugely, massively successful. You know, that was one of my older sons, his one of his friends said that, you know, your business is really successful when you have an ad on the Super Bowl. Yeah. We may not ever be to that point. I really, really doubt it. And that's okay.
And that's okay.
That's okay.
Yeah. That's like 0.001% of everything that you see. Yeah.
But I sort of feel like if we can help one caregiver or one survivor, it's lighten their load, given them some hope, a little bit of direction, that it's going to help them down the road on their brain injury journey just that much more.
Yeah.
It was a success.
Yeah.
It was worth it.
For sure.
Because I remember, even with all the help that we had, I remember just feeling like I was underwater all the time.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And I don't know if anyone has ever, you've been swimming and you're underwater and the water is deeper than you thought. And you know that panic feeling? You can see, you're rising to the top, right? But it's not coming fast enough. And that feeling of just that desperation. And that was just if you could even just ease a little bit of that desperation, that would be worth it.
It's worth it.
That's a great analogy, like the swimming and trying to find the top. That's a great way to explain what a brain injury feels like.
And there's going to be more than one time after you've
Yeah.
had a brain injury that you're
Oh,
going to
yeah.
feel like you're
Well,
underwater.
you never really reach